Hey, Ollie here. So, US tariffs have just been announced across tens of countries, 10% on Australia, UK, 20% on Europe, even higher than that for Southeast Asia, and these are alongside pre-existing tariffs for countries like Canada and Mexico. And to top all that off, we don't know if they're here to stay. There's been talks of backdoor negotiations with the UK, although that sounds a little bit more pessimistic now. And all of this is just a pain in the neck for e-commerce merchants, as you already know. You don't know if you're going to have to raise your prices, whether you sell products at existing prices, whether you have to take the hit to the margin, or whether this is just not going to be a topic in a month's time. So what I want to do is just show you how you can address this with pre-orders. And by that I mean, how can you build in flexibility on price, flexibility to step back and actually not go ahead with the order, and also flexibility in terms of not charging customers up front and doing this in a way which keeps a very nice customer shop merchant relationship. So as it happens, we recently released a one-page report on 1 million pre-orders that we've processed for merchants on Shopify and BigCommerce. And by we, I mean pre-product. So that's a pre-order solution I run. Now, what I want to go to is the pre-order type section. So here we go. There's two types of pay later pre-order. There's capture only and charge later. So charge later, that is where you send a customer through checkout at the time of order. You vault their credit card details with Shopify or Stripe, and then when you're ready, you trigger charges against those cards, that card. And that can be a month, it can be 2 months, 3 months. Only thing to say with these is the price is locked in at the time of pre-order, but they're very easy to get out of, and we kind of, or you can communicate in a way which kind of shows that. So here is just a very rough development store. We click pre-order. Pre-order today, and we'll hold off charging you until we're ready to ship. And then let me just show you what Shopify would service. So total due today, 0. And then in the future, £27 in this case. But you don't have to trigger those charges. You could just as well send an email saying, sorry, for reasons outside of our control, we've decided not to go ahead with this product. So that's charge later pre-orders. The other alternative, which is even more flexible, is capture only pre-orders. And I should say that both charge later and capture only are our two most common types of pre-order that merchants use. So how do capture only pre-orders work? You send the customer to your product page, you take their pre-order, so the t-shirt in blue in large, and then you take their name and email, and only once you're ready to ship do you send the customer a payment link to your store, and then at that point they go through checkout. And the nice thing about this is that whole time after they've placed the pre-order, but before you trigger the payment link, you can change the product price. So you really have all the flexibility you need. They're just a little less higher converting than charge later, because for charge later you don't need anything further from the customer. You just trigger charges and it all goes through. So those would be my two picks for taking orders in this kind of tariff environment where everything's very uncertain. If that does sound good and you do want to take this kind of more proactive approach, feel free to install pre-product with a free trial. I'll put a link below. And also feel free to get in contact with me personally, Ollie at preproduct.io. And we can kind of go over your specific situation or anything like that. Anyway, cool.